We are live on. Okay. So, okay. Okay. So, I didn't get actually a bunch of questions in the Keto Kickstart Facebook group today, which is interesting because I'm assuming it means that I did so well. Okay, putting out so much information. I really did. I did 3 live streams last week in the group. I did a live stream yesterday. I put out a whole lot of information about not just the technical aspects of how to actually get yourself fat adapted, but I also discussed yesterday as an incredible live. I think in my, if I dare say so myself, it was like an incredible live in terms of the what I talked about dealing with sugar addiction. I'm literally going to download that live stream. I'm going to put it in the like paid members area that like my group coaching and my one-on-one coaching clients get. I really think that I did an excellent job explaining stuff yesterday. So like I said, so we're going to go ahead and we're going. So like I said, I think I did a good job of answering a lot of questions. That's why I didn't get a whole lot today. Any questions, you go ahead and you just let me know. I will spontaneously answer them. Okay. I asked for questions. I got a bunch from YouTube. So I'm going to go ahead and just start by answering the questions that came up on YouTube. Okay. So, first of all, let me just go ahead and cover one real quick question. What are the first steps and the mindset to start and keep a successfully keto diet as long as possible? Love your videos. Keep them coming. Thank you very much. I'm glad you like my videos. I will certainly keep them coming. Thank you for the question. So here, first of all, like I said, I did an excellent live yesterday on how to deal with a sugar addiction or a carbohydrate addiction. Okay, like I said, I think that was really wonderful work that I did, if I say so myself, and it will cover a lot of the mindset. Okay, in terms of people not being able to deal with not eating carbohydrates anymore. Okay. Past that, okay, that's like the dealing with a sugar addiction is the difference between being on a ketogenic diet and the mindset necessary and being on any kind of a diet. Okay, that's what makes a ketogenic diet special. Now, there are also a bunch of mindset problems which we have to solve to be on any diet. Okay. And some of them are the same and some of them are different. Okay. So, for instance, I said with in terms of having a sugar addiction, okay, it's like being an alcoholic. When you go ahead and you stop, drinking, you have to, like, you don't go into rehab saying, as soon as I get out of here, I'm just going to get wasted. Like, you go into rehab saying, like, as soon as I get my body no longer dependent upon alcohol, I am going to spend the rest of my life no longer drinking alcohol. Okay. And you have to do the same thing with carbs. If you have a problem with eating carbs, where you cannot eat carbohydrates um, in certain amounts, okay, you cannot eat them in moderation. You cannot moderate your consumption of carbohydrates. You have to admit that you're basically an alcoholic for that stuff or a drug addict for that stuff. And you need to realize you are never going to be able to eat, quote, normal again. Okay. So, like I said, beyond a sugar addiction, anybody who goes on a diet needs to realize that they are going to have to eat on some kind of a diet for the rest of their lives. Okay. Like, when can I eat normal again? Well, if you had a case of beer and 2 pizzas and, I don't know, a Happy Meal and a tub of fucking ice cream every day, and that's your idea of normal, that's what got you fat in the first place. So if you think that you're going to go on a diet and then eat normal again, which means a case of beer, 2 pizzas, a tub of ice cream, and a Happy Meal every day, you are going to have the exact same problem. Okay. So just like when you are in debt financially, you get yourself out of debt by taking care of yourself, like financially, living within your means. You cannot go ahead and do the same thing or you'll be back in debt again. Okay. And like I said, I've said this before, this is like crazy. Like, people say, well, the diet didn't work because as soon as I went back to eating normal, I got fat again. But nobody ever says, like, yeah, so I was like, saving money and I wasn't spending money. And then as soon as I got, as soon as I ruined, as soon as I, paid off my credit cards, I went to Vegas and I took out a loan and I maxed out all my cards and I'm in debt again. So, like budgeting doesn't work. Yes, budgeting does work. You'd be a moron if you blew your money after you budgeted yourself down and paid off your credit cards. And it's the same thing. Like the diet worked. What didn't work is going off the diet. So it's just like you have to budget to get out of debt, and then you have to live within your means to not get in debt again. You need to do the same thing with your diet. So it's very important that you find a diet that you actually do enjoy. And like for me, for instance, like if I had to, I cannot eat carbohydrates in moderation, so I could never have a diet where I eat a lot of carbs. I could never have a diet where you eat like flexible dieting where I eat like one donut. That would never work for me. Okay. And I actually like fat and protein. I said in the last live on sugar addiction, like I actually enjoy just having like omelets and steaks and eggs and meat, eggs, and dairy. I actually enjoy it, and I actually hate eating stuff like pasta and stuff. I realized, when I was on keto, I was like, God, when I thought I liked some kind of pasta or something, I liked the cream sauce, or I liked the cheese, or I liked the spices. I didn't actually like the pasta itself. So I could still, on my diet now, have the same, cheese and cream sauces and spices. I just have them on meat, eggs, and dairy instead of having them with, instead of having them on, pasta. So, like I said, one important thing for any kind of a diet is you have to realize you're going to have to be on it forever. You can't just eat normal, okay, huge amounts of whatever you want, or you're going to get fat again. And therefore, you have to, like I said, you have to have a diet that you actually enjoy. Okay. But like I said, the mindset hacks in terms of keto, I really discussed in depth in my last video about the sugar addiction. Like I said, definitely watch it. And I think I got a comment from the guy who made that comment. Okay, okay, I just listened to the carb addiction video. Very good definition. Everyone, parentheses me included, use carb addiction without understanding that's an addiction. Yeah, like I said, I really do believe, believe it or not, um, that like obesity is going to be the new smoking. Okay, I believe like back in the 50s, back in the 40s, everyone smoked. Okay, like you were not normal if you didn't smoke. And if you walked around and you said like, oh my God, why are you smoking? It's like people would just like beat you up, like, oh my God, what are you, some kind of a health Nazi, like whatever. These days nobody smokes, and it's considered antisocial to smoke. And it's like, if you but whereas, like obesity is the new smoking. Like everybody's overweight. 70% of Americans are overweight or obese, medically speaking. Okay, not my judgment, but literally doctors measuring their patients say that 70% are either overweight according to medical science, or obese. And it's normal. Like if I saw a kid smoking a cigarette in front of his parents, I could like run over and like, punch the fucking shit out of the fucking parent, like, you child abusing piece of shit. And that parent will be like thrown in jail for child abuse, and the kid will be taken away and put into a home. But if you have a young child who's pre-diabetic because he's extremely overweight because his parents, let him eat, it's accepted, just like smoking was back in the 40s. So, like I said, what I'm basically saying now is, I think that, sugar addictions are going to be accepted just like alcohol addictions are these days. Once again, back in the 40s, oh, you don't have to quit drinking, just have one drink and make sure it lasts all meal. Have one glass of wine and make sure it lasts all dinner. It doesn't work if you're an alcoholic, and you can't just eat carbs in moderation. Just have one piece of bread, or have one donut, or one mashed potato or something. You can't do that if you're a carb addict. So I think that in the future, when people start dropping dead because of body positivity, I think that obesity is going to be the new smoking. How can you let your kid be obese? How can you be obese in front of your kid? How can you eat garbage in front of your kid? Just the way it is with smoking these days. And I also do believe that that, like I said, that just like back in the day, oh, alcoholism, like, I'm not sick, I'm not crazy, I don't have to go to a sanitarium. These days alcoholism is like, but do you need help? You need to quit. You need Alcoholics Anonymous. And I think that in the future obesity is going to be like smoking, and that just like with alcoholism, that sugar addiction is going to be recognized as a real thing. People are going to have to die before that happens. you know just like the big tobacco companies went on trial. They went before, what was it, Congress or whatever, and one by one they're like, I swear that I was unaware that smoking causes cancer, or whatever lies they came up with. I think that the same thing's going to happen to like fast food companies. Okay. So yeah, like I said, you need to admit that it's an addiction. You need to admit that you cannot stop eating carbohydrates. when you start, and you have to admit that the only way you're going to be able to lose weight is by not eating carbohydrates at all. Okay. So let's go ahead and, like I said, if anybody has any questions specifically about keto or fat adaptation, let me know. But right now, like I said, I got to answer some more questions that I got from YouTube. Okay, so one of the questions I got from YouTube, John D. Thomas, the guy who just posted saying that he listened to my last live, he asked three questions. Okay, number one, what are my thoughts on cycling in resistive cardio into a normal strength workout? Parentheses, kettlebells, swimming, or jump rope. All right, so John D. Thomas, since you're apparently watching, you can go ahead and correct me if I am wrong here, but I believe when you say resistive cardio, I'm assuming you mean something where you like legitimately work against resistance. Okay. For instance, kettlebell, you're swinging a big steel weight. Okay, you're doing cardio, you're doing a repetitive motion, and you're increasing the rate of your heart and your lungs. Um, the same, so you're certainly increasing, you're doing cardio, you're raising your heart rate in your lungs, the rate of your breathing, but you're doing it against resistance. Okay, same thing with swimming. Water is what, 800 times or something like that more dense than air. So when you're swimming, even though you're doing quote cardio, you're working against resistance. That explains why there's the swimmer's build. Okay, they have like this great muscular build, because they're not just doing cardio, but they're working against resistance, as opposed to, let's say, a marathon runner who looks emaciated. Okay, and jump rope. Okay, you're jumping up and down. Okay, you're getting a really good calf workout. So what I'm going to say about that is, I do certainly believe that this type of cardio is really good. Okay, I remember back when I was in high school. My physics teacher, said you basically don't burn calories unless you work against gravity. He's like, if you go for a jog, all you're really doing is increasing your heart rate, increasing your respiratory rate. But if you run like uphill, upstairs, okay, you are working against gravity. And you can, that's when you burn calories. And you can see the same thing if you get on a treadmill or a step mill. If you get a treadmill versus a treadmill with a high incline, you are going to, at the same speed, okay, burn in the same time a lot more calories working against gravity. Okay, so I do believe that working against resistance is a wonderful way for you to build up, like, not just endurance, but to build up the muscular ability, like muscular endurance, like the ability to not just breathe heavy and have your heart rate and still perform, but the ability to like work through resistance. So some of the exercises that I've done, I like burpees. Okay, every time you do a burpee, you do a push up and you do a squat jump. Okay, those are excellent. That is an excellent exercise. I like doing squat jumps where you squat down, and you just jump up. I like doing squat tucks where you squat down, jump up, and you bring your knees to your chest while you're in the air. So all of them are basically doing like a calisthenics exercise, but for so many repetitions. So let's say you do 10 burpees. Okay, 30-second break, 10 burpees. You've done 10 push-ups and 10 jumping squats, and you took a 30-second break and you did it again. Okay. Same thing with kettlebell swings. You don't swing a kettlebell for an hour straight. You do so many reps, take a short break, do so many reps, take a short break. So not only are you working against resistance, which means you're building your ability to work against resistance, your explosiveness, and you're also burning more calories because you're working against resistance. But what you're also doing is you're training your body to work hard for a short amount of time and recover quickly. Like I said, like 10 burpees, and as hard, jump up as hard as you can, do them as fast as you can, 10 reps, and then take a 30-second break and then recover. Or with your jump rope, do a minute of jump rope as fast as you can, 15-second break to recover, and then another 1 minute as hard as you can. What you're doing is you're teaching yourself to go hard as hell and then to recover. And this is something that I tell people who train with me who are MMA fighters, like what kind of sport it is, whether it's some kind of wrestling, grappling, boxing, kickboxing, or MMA. What you basically do is you have like a flurry of punches, a flurry of kicks. Somebody's like blocking, somebody's throwing punches, trying to get through. Somebody's going for a takedown, somebody's trying to sprawl out. Somebody's on top trying to, like, the guy on the bottom is trying to roll him, the guy on top is trying to sprawl out so he doesn't. Whatever is going on, you're having like a high intensity activity, and then there's like a little bit of a rest. You don't just throw punch, 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 punch for 5 minutes straight in an MMA fight. There's a period where over a few seconds, guys like throwing punches, the other guy's trying to bob and weave, he's blocking, punching back, and there's just a few seconds, and then they kind of circle around a little bit. If you're wrestling on the ground trying to, scramble for control, then there's a time where people are kind of slowed down, they kind of like, reposition themselves and look for what their next move is going to be. So if you have two guys at 100% and there's a scramble, and then in a few seconds, this guy returns and recovers to 100%, and this guy's at 80%, this guy has an advantage. Then there's another scramble, flurry of punches, scramble, ungrappling, whatever. Now this guy's still at 100%, and this guy's at 60%. Massive advantage. Then there's another scramble. This guy recovers in a few seconds. Once again, he's still at 100% because he trains for that. This guy does long distance running, so he went from 100% after the first scramble to 80%, after the second scramble to 60%. Now he's maybe at 40%. His hands are down, he's breathing heavy, his mouth's open, and it's like, that's how, if this guy's still at 100%, that's how this guy's going to get knocked out, okay? Because he just can't keep up, because that's the way, like I said, a fight is. The same thing in the military. Yes, you need to be able to walk long distances with a rucksack on your back, but when it comes out to actual combat, you don't walk from one side of the road to the other. You like charge one side of the road to the other. You charge into a room to clear a room. You charge upstairs. It's like there's a lot of anaerobic activity going on. So, like I said, you definitely need to build that up if you are an athlete or have an athletic profession. And like I said, I do agree that what you call resistive cardio is the absolute best way to do that. Okay. Um, if you want to reset your sugar addiction, how is the 36 eggs diet? 36 eggs or something else strict to just go break the fucking carb addiction once and for all. Okay, so if people don't know what the 36 eggs a day diet is, that's an old Vince Gironda diet. And what he basically did was he had you eating up to 36 eggs, usually mixed with half and half, and having you like have like a couple meals of like solid food, like just meat, a couple meals. Okay. And now, first of all, 36 eggs a day. Okay, he talked about you working up to 36 eggs a day. Another thing is Vince Gironda never really explained how to like, with most of his diets, he never really explained how to figure out exactly how much to eat. Okay, when you worked one-on-one with him, he actually told you exactly what to eat, but it was basically like work up to, 36 eggs a day. The most eggs that I've ever really eaten were like 16. Okay, that's the most eggs I've really eaten a day. I would have like 6 eggs in the morning, mixed with half and half, just drink them raw. I'd have another 6 eggs during the day, mixed with half and half. I would drink them raw. And then I was having like like a quarter pound of ground beef, fried, and then I'd scramble in like 4 eggs. So the total was like 16 eggs that I would have in a day. Okay. Not near, literally exact, not nearly half the 36 eggs that he was talking about. Okay. But that's the idea. The idea is to consume, a lot of raw eggs, for all the benefits of raw eggs, from protein to cholesterol, which actually builds, is a precursor to testosterone, to the micronutrients you have inside of the egg yolk, to the pure calories that you need when you're bulking. So, like I said, the 36 eggs a day diet, you don't necessarily have to eat 36 eggs a day. What I really do suggest that you do in terms of getting off of your carb addiction and getting fat adapted is, this is not a plug, but you literally work with me, because like I said, like, in terms of getting fat adapted, I am going, what you do is you need to have the right mindset, you need to have your electrolytes right, you need to have your fiber right, you need to have your water intake right. And in terms of eating, I just want you to eat as few carbs as possible. I want you to eat as much as you want to eat, especially fat, and then I want you to eat some more. Because during the fat adaptation process, you are not supposed to be losing weight. You're supposed to be getting fat adapted. That's it. You're supposed to be getting all the carbs out of your system. You're supposed to bypass the keto flu. If you do things right, you will not even feel the keto flu. And you're supposed to, get your body used to burning fat for fuel instead of carbs. Um, and like I said, that's not the time for you to go ahead and like cut your calories. That would just add more stress, like mental, emotional stress, would also has physical stress. Just go ahead and get fat adapted. And what I'm going to be actually doing is next week, I'm going to start planning the next 14-day keto kickstart. The best way for anybody to find out about that is to follow me on Instagram at Raw Strength and Muscle. And what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm going to be basically inviting people in. Once again, it's going to be a free Facebook group for 14 days straight where we do lives just like this one. I tell you exactly what to do. I answer all of your questions inside of the Facebook group. And like I said, the point is to get everybody fat adapted. So at the end of the 2 weeks, you are capable of being on a ketogenic diet for the rest of your life. Like I said, you go right through the keto flu. You don't have any digestive issues because of lack of fiber, no problems with dehydration, and you get your mindset right. So like I said, that's actually the best way to get fat adapted. And like I said, it's free. So it's a small plug, but it's shameless still, but it's not that much of a shameless plug because it's free. Okay. Cool. Third question from John D. Thomas. Awesome. Can the amount of carbohydrates be adjusted based on the type of stimulus or exercise is adapting to? Yeah, it certainly can. Once again, I discussed this, I believe, in the first live I did in the group. You can have full muscles and you can have vascularity. Okay, like, once again, this is me. This is not even the hand that I use with my mouse, and I still have like veins popping out. Okay, haven't done any exercise in hours, and this is just the way I am. 0 carbs. Okay, you do not need carbohydrates to be vascular. Okay, you need to be relatively low body fat. You need to have plenty of water, plenty of electrolytes. In terms of having full muscles, like muscle roundness, muscle fullness, you do not need to have carbohydrates for that. You just need everything I just mentioned. Plus, when I'm on high fat, I just feel my muscles are pumped all the time. Okay, so there's no need for carbohydrates just to have look good. Okay, there's no need for carbohydrates to build muscle. You can bulk, lean bulk. You could also dirty bulk probably on a ketogenic diet. I was on a ketogenic diet for a year and a half, and I built like 12, 15 pounds of muscle in that time. That's when I first started adding. I first started eating to grow instead of eating to stay lean. And it was also when I first started adding weights to my calisthenics workouts. And I put on, like I said, well over 10 pounds of muscle. So you basically have protein, okay, which you use for building muscle. You have fat for energy. And there's no reason why you cannot do a weight workout without carbohydrates. Okay. Now, the way he says this, adjusting the amount of carbohydrates based on the type of stimulus. Okay. If you are doing what I was describing earlier, okay, doing short bursts of high intensity exercise, sprints, like sprint 100 meters, walk back, sprint 100 meters, walk back. Okay. As explosive as possible, as fast as possible. A minute of jump rope, 15-second break. Minute of jump rope, 15-second break. Okay, something like that. Burpees. I feel I get a better workout if I am taking in some carbohydrates. Okay, it's only for that really short burst. And I have certainly done burpee intervals, jump rope intervals. I've done things like that without carbs, and actually on a relatively low fat ketogenic diet as well. Okay, when I was cutting, and I got great results too. But like I said, if I have, and I have a couple people who are MMA fighters, who want me to help them with their diets, and I do have them when they do intense workouts, they take some dextrose powder pre and post workout. The reason for that, the reason for the dextrose powder is sucrose, fructose, basically table sugar, fruit sugar tends to go and get stored inside of your liver, not inside of your muscles. Okay. When you're doing a workout, you want it in your muscles. That's where you want to have all the sugar, all the carbs. Okay. Also, you make ketones in your liver, so you really don't want to have a bunch of sugar there. Dextrose is basically pure glucose, which it tends to go more to your muscles, okay, than to your liver. And because you're not eating like an orange or eating some kind of food, it doesn't have to be broken down physically, broken down chemically, and then brought into your body. Basically, since you're just drinking a powder mixed with water, it's just going to go straight into your bloodstream. It's going to go straight into your muscles. Okay, so that's what I have my people doing right before. And basically what it does is it just fills up their muscles with glycogen. They burn out all of the glycogen during the workout. And like I said in the very first live I did about getting fat adapted, people go in and out of ketosis all the time. If you eat donuts all day and then you just stop eating anything for a couple hours, at some point you're going to go into ketosis because your body's going to need energy from somewhere. If you don't have any more carbs because you haven't eaten in several hours, you're going to have to burn some fat. Okay, so it's not like it takes you out of ketosis for a week and a half because you have some dextrose. Basically, you're just burning fat. Then all of a sudden you have some dextrose. Boom, you use it during your workout. And then when that stuff's gone, you go right back to being on ketosis again. Okay. Um, cool. So yeah, so like I said, I mean, in general, if you're going to be doing, if you're doing just for general health, you don't need carbs. If you're going to be doing walking, jogging, long distance running, marathon running, it's really good. It's better to be in ketosis than it is to be burning carbs. Strength training, building muscle, losing fat, you do not need carbs. The only time that I would recommend that you take in some carbs is if you were, like I said, a professional athlete, somebody who wants to get really good at doing, like I said, like high intensity interval stuff, then I would suggest some carbs pre and post workout. Okay. Let's see a couple more questions. Tomas, I see you as a pattern figure. Hope to be like that at your age. Greetings from Argentina. Okay, greetings to Argentina. Thank you, Tomas. I guess pattern figure mean like an example. I appreciate that. 48 years old, that's what I'm trying to do, is show you that at 48 years old, you can still be in pretty good shape and pretty healthy. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Marco asks, am I American? I lived in Germany for 14 years. I got out of the army, stationed in Germany, and I just said, screw it, I'm going to stay here. So I lived in Germany for 14 years. I worked for a German company. I every email was written in German. We went to courses, trainings, licenses from the state, like the government of Germany. All of it was in Germany. So, like, I like to believe that at least a few years ago, I spoke some pretty good German. But yes, I am actually an American. Yeah. John D. Thomas, great. Thank you so much. No, I appreciate the questions, brother. Seriously. And like I said, if you're interested, John D. Thomas, or anybody else is interested, like I said, follow me on anaerobics at Raw Strength and Muscle. And the week after next, I'm going to be doing another 14-day keto kickstart. So I'll start inviting people in next week. Okay. Cool. Jake, thoughts on doing lower fat carnivore for fat loss? Okay. So, first of all, the only real difference between carnivore and keto is really fiber. Okay, carnivores, they call themselves like zero carb, like they don't even take in like trace carbs in terms of fiber. No salad leaves or anything like that. Um, Honestly, carnivores are like the vegetarians of, like, meat eaters. Like, not only is it like carnivore is, they like have problems with normal people, so to speak, but they also like, you're not carnivore enough because you use butter. You're not carnivore enough because you eat eggs. And it's like, they kind of, there's a lot of infighting and stuff. But so what I'm gonna basically is, like I said, I'm just gonna talk about, like, what it's like of being low carb. Okay. You do not need a lot of fat to produce ketones. You don't produce ketones because you have a lot of fat in your diet. Okay, you produce ketones because you have no carbohydrates in your body. And if you have no carbohydrates in your body, you can either die or you could find an alternative source for fuel. Now, people talk about gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis is when your body takes protein, whether it's protein you consume or your muscle protein, organs, whatever protein you have in your body, and you turn it into glucose, which is sugar, carbs, and use that for fuel. That is an extremely inefficient method of survival. Okay. You really cannot fuel your body through gluconeogenesis. As a matter of fact, if you don't believe me, and I want people to not believe me, look this up yourself. Look up rabbit starvation. Okay, apparently rabbit meat is extremely lean. I never looked it up, but apparently it's extremely lean because the Native Americans used to say that if you just ate rabbit meat, you would lose your mind and die. Okay, basically what would happen is, like, you're consuming as much as you consume. They said, like, the Indians, the natives, or whatever we're calling them these days, they said you could stuff yourself so that your stomach is distended and you're stuffing yourself full of rabbit meat. but you would not have any energy. You would still be hungry. You would not be able to fuel yourself. And that's because gluconeogenesis, turning protein into carbohydrates, is not a very efficient method of fueling your body. Okay. So you don't eat carbs. Gluconeogenesis just don't work. Okay. So the only alternative that your body has when there are no carbs present is to burn fat for fuel. Because even if you don't eat any fat, you still have body fat available. And once again, like I said before, people go in and out of ketosis all the time. Okay. Um, the people who say that they have really good cognitive abilities when they do intermittent fasting, they stop eating, let's say, in the afternoon, they go all evening, all night, and then all morning until the next afternoon without eating food. That means that they burn out all the carbohydrates, okay, and they were in ketosis. So you wake up in the morning, your mind is sharp. Well, you're in ketosis, okay? You're in ketosis, your mind is sharp, you go work for a few hours, and then 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon, you have your first meal, usually carbohydrates in there, and then all of a sudden you feel lethargic. Well, that's because you ate carbohydrates, okay? So what I'm saying is basically you do not need to eat 80% of your calories from fat to be in ketosis. All you need to do is not eat carbohydrates, and then your body will burn the fat you eat and or the fat that you have on your body for fuel. Okay, because there's no choice. So what I'm basically saying once again is, like I said, I really don't, you do not need to take in fat to be in ketosis. Okay, so what that means in terms of lower fat carnivore, this is actually a diet that I use. Like I said, it's not carnivore. I have you having taking in fiber, so it's not carnivore, but a moderate fat ketogenic diet is what I have most people on for maintenance, and a low fat ketogenic diet is what I have people on for fat loss. Okay, because this is the way it works. No carbs, your body's burning fat for fuel. Now you consume fat in your diet, okay, and you have body fat, which your body uses. But it is much easier to use the fat in your diet that you're eating or drinking for fuel than it is to use your body fat, because you got to break down the body fat and use it as fuel. So it's a lot easier just to go ahead and if you drink butter in your coffee, hey, bunch of fat, we can use that for fuel. Okay. So by decreasing the amount of fat that you take in your diet, you are therefore going to have to make up the difference by burning more body fat. And because your body's used to burning used to burning fat because you're in ketosis, it's going to be pleasant for you. It's going to be more pleasant to burn body fat than if you were used to burning carbohydrates. So, yeah, so Jake's question here, I guess that's a long way to explain it. But yes, I do believe you should do lower fat keto, okay, in my case, for fat loss. Okay, basically what I do with people is I get them fat adapted. Then I figure out what their goal body weight is. Usually it's going to be losing fat. Sometimes I get somebody who wants to bulk up, but very rarely. Everybody wants to lose at least a little bit of fat. So I have you get fat adapted. Then I keep the protein high, drop the fat, which drops the calories. Then you lose a lot of body fat. Okay. Then when you either get as lean as you want to be, or you start getting depleted because you're not eating enough and you're starting to feel the effects of being on the diet, then I give you a diet break, or by increasing your fat and therefore your calories, or I go ahead and slowly increase the amount of fat you're eating. The bottom line is you go ahead and you lower your fat, burn more body fat, and then as it goes on, you just increase your fat intake, which increases your calories. The good thing about doing that, is when you start in a deficit and slowly add fat, slowly adding calories, what happens is at the end of the quote diet, you're actually at your maintenance. You just basically just add fat until you're in a point where you feel good in the gym, you feel good mentally, you're not starving hungry, you're basically feeling good, and that's your maintenance. Because you could use mathematics to figure out what your caloric intake should be, what your maintenance calories are, but it's impossible to do that properly. At the end of the day, it's basically just a more or less educated guess. Okay. Uh, but it really does, like I said, depend upon how person to person. So by dropping the calories so they're way below your caloric maintenance and then increasing the fat, increasing the calories slowly over time, wherever you end up, where the guy feels good, okay, performs well, isn't starving, that's his maintenance calories. So basically, you knock out two birds with one stone. You lose some fat, and you find your true maintenance calories. And like I said, I certainly do recommend dropping your fat when you're on a ketogenic diet if you want to lose fat. And as a matter of fact, Vince Gironda used to say this himself. I don't know which of his books, but I read one of his books, and he said, like, he's talking about his maximum definition diet or steak and eggs diet, meat, eggs, and water diet, and he just had like a little sentence somewhere in the book where he's like, you can get a spurt of fat loss by lowering your fat as well for a short time. So, like I said, certainly something I'm into. Nobody knows. I think he's a spy. No, that's funny. I knew a guy. He was a Russian. He was a Russian who was living in Germany, and he was he was like extremely intelligent. He's the only person I went through. I was a trainer for a security company. He's the only one that got 200 out of 200 in terms of the shooting. He knew everything about weapons. I would talk about some kind of like a crazy hand to hand combat kind of thing, like eye gouges, stuff I made up based upon street fighting and stuff that I just seen in the military and stuff. And he would be like, "Yeah, I got in a street fight. This guy did that." I was like, "Oh my god, this is crazy that this guy knew all this." And he could just do like crazy stuff, like like when he got bored when he was at work, he'd basically be like, give me a number. It's like 12,759 times 532, and he was just kind of like put like his finger on the table and kind of make numbers. He'd give you the exact number. He was like a crazy, crazy, crazy guy. And I swear that guy was in the KGB. And if he wasn't, they really fucking missed out on him because he would have been perfect. Okay, cool. Good. More questions. Okay, I got a question on YouTube before that I'm going to go ahead and answer here. Probably do a video about this too. Okay, my opinion of local versus online clinics. Okay, this is TRT clinic or hormone replacement clinic. Also, what are some good qualifying questions to ask the provider when searching for the right fit? Thank you. Okay, Bill, here you go. The difference between local versus online, you need to have somebody good to be doing your TRT. Okay. I don't give anybody, medical advice or legal advice, but people do ask me a lot about TRT. And like the most advice that I'll give you, the most medical advice that I'll give you is basically you need to find a doctor. Okay. So if you are looking for somebody that you can find in your local area in person, you need to have some luck. Okay. So like my girlfriend or ex-girlfriend or God knows what the hell's going on with this relationship, she found a really good doctor. I know a lot of people that go to him. He is a general practitioner, but he has a lot of experience with hormones. And when she went to him, like I said, when she went to him, it was basically like took a bunch of blood. She was on low carbs. This is before I met her. She was already on low carbs. She was working out several times a week, and she was doing kickboxing in her garage several times a week. And she was running with her dogs like every day. So she was doing a lot of work, and she was like 165 pounds. So this guy draws a ton of blood, does a bunch of tests, finds out vitamin deficiencies, hormone irregularities. Okay. And he also found out that her thyroid was screwed up. So he put her on thyroid medications, and without changing anything, she went from like, 165 down to like 130 or 135. Okay. So she was lucky that she found a good doctor. Like I said, he has her on like everything. He tests everything from different hormones, normal blood panel, of course, like health markers, but he tests, like I said, her thyroid. And then every once in a while she'll gain like 5 pounds for no reason. And she'll go to the doctor and okay, we have to adjust your thyroid medication again. So the bottom line is, if you're lucky, you can find somebody like that. Now, on the other hand, okay, I knew a guy. Okay, it was actually my mother's late husband. Okay, like I was talking to him because he was on TRT, and his doctor had him shooting up every 2 weeks. Okay, um, which I think is completely wrong. Okay, the problem with that is what I always say is like when I was a kid, it was like, oh, it's healthy to drink a glass of wine every day. So instead of drinking 7 glasses of wine, one every day, let's say you drink like 7 glasses of wine in one day. Well, now you're wasted on that one day. Plus, you didn't get the benefit of the wine on the other 6 days where you just didn't drink it. Okay. It's stupid, right? Just drink a glass of wine and then the next day drinking a glass of wine and, whatever. Whether that's a great idea or not, but the point is, if you want to get health benefits from drinking a glass of wine every day, you don't go ahead and drink 7 in one day or 14 in one day and not drink for the rest of the 2 weeks, right? So the idea is with, injecting testosterone, yes, there is an ester, which is like a time delay. But the bottom line is a lot of the testosterone gets into your body right away. So basically, you're injecting like a ton of testosterone, having, quote, too much. A lot of it converts in your body to estrogen. Okay. So now you have like too much testosterone, too much estrogen. And then over the next 14 days, it goes down to normal, and then it goes down way below normal, probably lower than it was before you were on TRT. And I'm like, I'm like, wow, where the hell do you get your testosterone from? Oh, my endocrinologist. Like, that guy's a genius. He's my endocrinologist. He doesn't know shit. Like, there's no way. So, like I said, like, that is a terrible, terrible doctor. Does not understand shit. I don't care if he's an endocrinologist or not. He literally does not understand shit. Just like, the scientist who said that bumblebees can't fly doesn't understand shit. So that would be an example. Like, if you get stuck with a doctor like that, you're kind of screwed. I had another guy, who made a comment on some YouTube video. He says that he thought he was getting gyno. He went to his doctor, who he's getting the TRT from, and the doctor had to right in front of him at his desk in his office, right in front of the patient, had to look up on the computer what is gyno, what are the symptoms of gyno. Then he had to look up what the treatment was, and he just basically wrote a prescription based upon the treatment on the computer. Okay, so like I said, another example. I've had guys talking about they needed an anastrozole or they needed HCG or whatever. I'm not going to give you some female fucking medication. That's not for men. Don't understand shit. So, like I said, basically the bottom line is if you go to somebody in your neighborhood, you're going to get what you get. The guy might be good. The guy might be bad. You get what you get. Whereas if you go online, what you're going to end up with is, you can choose who you want to work with. And like I said, the best thing that I can recommend with that is to go on a thing called Excelmale, EXCELMALE.com. It's a website. They have like a big forum, so you can actually ask questions from, people are there who have been on TRT for years. Plus, the forum is like sponsored by different online TRT clinics. So you could actually, like, a lot of the doctors are active. I don't know if it's still here. I mean, it was years ago that I was on that. I know the website still exists. I don't know if it's exactly the way it was, but you could actually ask like some of the doctors who actually own some of these clinics, and they'll actually interact with you in the forum. So that was the best way, to not just find out about TRT from people who have been on it and from some doctors, but also you could look at different online clinics to see exactly, which one resonates with you. In terms of questions to ask the provider, like, first of all, what he does. I mean, like I said, the guy that I know who is a really good doctor for TRT and for hormone replacement and longevity and whatever is a general practitioner. And endocrinologists have been traditionally some of the worst people that I've seen. I've heard horror stories. Okay. So like I said, definitely, ask like why he's doing this. Like, oh, I'm an endocrinologist. Sorry, I didn't say to tell me shit. Where if he's like, hey, just ask anybody in town. They know I'm the guy to go to because I handle everybody's shit. Like, I've been doing this. I'm on it myself. Like, whatever. That's like I said, like the guy that my girlfriend goes to. Okay. Find out like why it is that he feels that he's qualified to do that. And then just ask them some questions like, okay, so like exactly, what kind are they going to give you? How often they say that you should inject, how to deal with aromatization, which is basically when test turns into estrogen. Will they prescribe HCG? Yes or no? Why or why not? I'm not saying you need it, but I'm just saying, like, they better give you a better example of why not to do it. Then that's a female fertility medicine. I ain't giving that to you. Ignorant stuff. Ignorant stuff. If they truly don't know, if they say, I'm not going to give you HCG because of this medical reason or my experience, that's fine. But if they say, oh, that's not for men, that's for women, like, oh my God, run. Don't fucking walk. Don't just run. Don't say goodbye. Run the hell out of the guy's office. Find somebody else. Okay. Another problem that I have is when an in-person clinic does not let you inject yourself. Okay. Like you have to come into the clinic and they have to, like, put it in your butt themselves. Okay. That is not good. Now, the problem with that is, what happens if you go on vacation? What happens if, you're at work and, whatever, you're traveling or something? What happens if something happens that you can't go there every, however often on that day, or they don't have an appointment available or whatever. So now you're going to be missing out on your, injection because of BS. Okay. They need to be able to trust you to do that. Now, another reason why is you need to inject at least once a week. Like, do you have the time to every week go to your doctor and, get your injection? Okay. If you miss it, like I said, your hormones are going to be screwed up. If you don't take it at all, or if you stop, like I can't go to my doctor every week or every 2 weeks because fuck that, I don't have time. Well, now you're off of basically steroids. Okay. Basically, your body stopped producing testosterone, and now you went ahead and you just stopped taking it. Okay. So now you're worse off than you were before. Now, I know even guys who do like massive amounts of gear, like performance enhancing drug levels, have said that after like 6 months, their body gets back to normal, but it may be a rough 6 months. Okay. So the bottom line is, like, find someone who will allow you to inject yourself. Another thing is, like I said, it's not good enough to inject every other week. You need to inject at least every week. I personally inject every other day. I take a tiny amount and I pop it into my delt every other day. So instead of getting, like I said, a huge amount, so you're way over, and then 2 weeks later you're down way under, okay, or getting a little bit too much, and then by the end of the week you're getting a little bit too little. I basically am at normal level, and then I take a little bit of a bump, and then the day after I take a little bit of a bump. So every other day I just bump it up. So I'm like basically at the same level, like a little bit above, a little bit below, a little bit above, a little bit below, but it's basically a straight line because I inject every other day. Are you going to go to your doctor every other day to get injected? Like, you're probably not. Okay. So like I said, definitely do not go to a doctor who's going to make you inject in person. Online, obviously, they're going to send you everything and you're going to inject yourself. But like I said, even if it's an in-person doctor, if he doesn't trust you to take the stuff yourself, then like I said, you just need to find a different doctor. Um, Also, like, and I don't think this is ever going to be a problem. Like I said, I've never heard of this being a problem, but like, you obviously make sure that they test you 100%. Your iron levels, your hematocrit levels, all basically test all your complete blood panel, um, and take that into consideration before they give you anything. And I do recommend also, like I said, that they do like a holistic approach. Like I said, with my girlfriend, when she goes to her in person doctor, they take a ton of blood, and it's not just what her like female hormones are, what her testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, whatever levels are. They do a lot with her thyroid. They do a lot with her blood markers, normal health markers. And they also do a lot with her, like I said, her micronutrients, make sure that she's taking the right vitamins and stuff like that. So, like I said, those are just some things that I recommend you go ahead and ask of your doctor. But like I said, if you are talking about an in-person doctor, you will probably have heard the reputation before you actually meet him. Like I said, the doctor that I know who lives, a town away in Jacksonville, Florida, everybody I know who is on testosterone and gets it from a doctor in person, like, goes to him. Every single one. Okay, except for very rare exceptions. So good, good, good. Okay, cool. Do we have any more questions? Let me see here. Those are all the questions I had beforehand. And okay, cool. Tony Maxine, hey, you made it to the Facebook live stream. Sorry, I did not see your question until now because I was over in YouTube. Okay, Tony Maxine, thank you very much for coming by. With low fat keto, how much protein? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it to you really quick, so I don't confuse anybody, but I probably will anyway. Um, when you do low fat keto, I recommend that you use at least 1.5 grams per pound of goal body weight. Okay. Um, because you're doing a couple things here when you're doing low fat keto. Okay, first of all, obviously, you always want to have enough protein to replace organs that you're regenerating, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Replace muscles. Okay, if you're trying to increase the size and strength of your muscles, you need to build. And also, when you're on a low fat, low carb diet, you need to make sure that you are not going to go into a catabolic state, which means you need even more protein. Okay, so that if your body does go to burning protein, it's going to burn protein from your diet, not from your muscles. Okay, and another thing is it is really hard to get fat by eating protein because it's very, 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 very difficult to turn protein into fat, to store protein as fat. And it's also very, very difficult, really, just to like, not difficult to digest it, but you burn a lot of calories. It's called the thermic effect of food. You burn more calories when you digest and when you consume protein than when you do fat or carbs. So these are all reasons to be high in protein. I suggest at least 1.5 grams per pound of goal body weight. Okay. So when I say that, I mean basically, I've got a guy right now who's a little bit over 250 pounds, and he's a very muscular guy, very muscular, powerlifting type guy, and he wants to get down to 200 pounds. 200 pounds is his goal body weight. So for him, he's 250 pounds, but when I put him on the low fat keto, I brought his protein intake up to 300 grams. Okay, 200 pounds goal body weight, 250-pound actual body weight, and 1.5 pounds or 1.5 grams per pound of goal body weight. So figure out what you want to get your body weight down to, and then at least 1.5 grams per pound of that. Okay. Um, good, good, good. And Tony Maxine, also, when you're doing that, I definitely recommend that you eat every 3 hours, because a lot of people, especially if they're on like low carb and lower fat, you're going to get hungry. Most people screw up their diets when they're hungry. Okay. So basically, have like the little fat that you do eat, have most of it in your first meal. So you wake up, boom, your body's fat adapted. You get in some good energy from the fat that you just ate. Then maybe have another meal of just protein. Then maybe have another meal of protein with a little bit of fat, and then etc. on throughout the day. Okay. So you kind of spread out your meals, and then you spread out your fat intake. Okay. And once again, like I've said before, because your body's fat adapted, when you have a little bit of fat, your body, just burns it right up. For us, fat is like sugar. It's just like boom, gives you immediate energy. Okay. And fat also satiates your hunger. So, like I said, spread out the fat throughout the day to give you energy and satiate your hunger. And normally, what I do is I'll give people like 6 meals. 3 of them will have fat. 3 of them will be just like basically pure protein. Okay. Um, yeah, that's the way I would do it. And of course, Tony Maxine, like I always say, when you're on a diet, cheat before you cheat. Okay. So even though your body's fat adapted, you are going, if you go on low enough calories long enough, you're going to get hungry. Okay. Before you get to the point where you become ravenous and totally screw up your diet, go ahead and add in like a fat refeed. Take a diet break, slowly increase the amount of calories you're taking in by slowly increasing the amount of fat you're taking in, etc. But do that, like I said, cheat before you cheat. Okay. Like intentionally take in more calories, intentionally take in more fat before you unintentionally just binge and eat a bunch of rubbish. Okay. Which will kind of screw things up. So, yeah, Tony, thank you very much for coming by. I hope that answers your question. Do we have any other questions from the YouTubers? I don't think so. Okay, cool. Anyway, like I said, for the people in the Facebook group, I will be seeing you guys again on the live on Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, as well as YouTube. For the people on YouTube, I am going to The week after next, do another 14-day keto kickstart. It's a free Facebook group where I do not just these lives, but I also give you all the information you need to get your body fat adapted beyond ketosis, just, electrolytes, fiber, water, everything, dealing with a sugar addiction, etc., etc., etc. And I also have inside the community the opportunity for you guys to ask me any questions that you want. It's completely free. So if you're interested in that, follow me on Instagram, okay, at Raw Strength and Muscle. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I will basically put it out in Instagram, and I will also put it out in the community tab on YouTube that I'm going to start up the next keto kickstart. Like I said, it's just a free Facebook group where for 14 days I kind of walk you through what you have to do to get fat adapted. Okay, aside from that, I appreciate everybody who came by. Subscribe if you haven't to YouTube. Follow me on Instagram. Thank you to the people in the Kickstart. Welcome for anybody who wants to join the next Kickstart the week after next. Appreciate you guys, and I will see you in the next live video Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time.